two writers, one just starting out, the other a bestseller. Join James Blatch and Mark Dawson and their amazing guests as they discuss how you can make a living telling stories. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast with Mark and James. Welcome along to another week. Delighted to have you with us. We're still in the unfinished studio. That sounds like a film title or the name of a series of works by Van Muyden or something in the Dutch era. What? The unfinished studio. I mean, it's Rembrandt or something, isn't it?
Oh my goodness.
See,
I'm completely lost. Carry on.
that's because you did maths and law. You should have studied the arts. I say to an author.
What car do I drive, James?
Yeah.
What should I have studied?
Yeah.
Carry on.
You studied the right things. Good. Yeah. Have you had a good week? Mark, where are you with books at the moment? We haven't caught up with you for a while.
Yeah. No, I'm working hard. I've got a couple of really cool things that I can mention later about collaboration that are quite exciting. But the stuff I'm writing at the moment, I'm trying to finish the fourth Isabella Rose book, and it is very, very difficult. It's the hardest book I think I've ever had to write, and because it's kind of tying up, it's the end of a series, so there's 3 books before it that need to, references all need to be consistent. I'm trying to introduce some plot twists that I hadn't thought of while I was writing the previous books, and it is really complicated, and I've been working on it for ages, and it's like pulling teeth at the moment, so it's not all glamour. No. It's not all sitting around in unfinished sheds chatting about books. Sometimes it can be a question of sitting down on the train like I was this morning and just trying to wrestle the words out. So I'll get there, but it's hard work at the moment.
Sweat, blood and tears, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lots of tears.
Lots of tears. And you've got no news to announce on Hollywood at the moment?
No, only that it's close. I mean, we've kind of agreed the terms of the deal now, and I'm just waiting for a call back from my Hollywood lawyer. That sounds terribly pretentious, but to say that the deal's been done. I know we've spoken to the producers and the company that are putting the money up. So it's just really a question of getting that done so they can start writing the script and hopefully pitching it for a pilot in the autumn.
Okay, well, talking of Hollywood, we are, John, as we sit here at the moment recording this, John Dyer and I are both planning to go to the United States. I have to say, as we sit here, the United States is being ravaged by hurricanes at this particular moment. Is it Irma? Irma is about to finish his or her trail of destruction in the Caribbean and hit Florida, and our thoughts and our prayers certainly go with everybody in that part of the world. We hope you stay safe. We know that several members of the SPF community have posted that they're moving out for the moment, so by the time this goes out we'll know what happened, but hopefully we will make it down to Florida, and I'm just looking at the calendar to try and pick a date. So we're going to be in St. Pete's Beach for the NINC conference, the annual NINC conference, Novelists Incorporated. Now that finishes on Friday the 6th. I would think that probably Wednesday the 4th looks like a very likely day for SPF drinks. So this is a day not to be missed when the SPF credit card comes out of John's wallet. Moths fly everywhere. There's a lot of cobwebs and dust gets blown off John Dyer's wallet. But the credit card then emerges. It gets handed to a nice guy. Can you remember the guy's name in the Shark Tooth Tavern in Tradewinds? Troy. It gets handed to Troy, whose eyes light up because he gets a decent tip out of the evening. And we have beers, so it's very likely to be in the Shark Tooth Tavern in the Tradewinds Resort, which is in St. Pete's Beach in Florida. Unfortunately, Mark cannot make it this year, but John Dyer is going to be there, and that's, in many people's eyes, it's the same experience. And I'll be there as well, of course. We would love to buy you a drink and to say hello. Just please tap us on the shoulder, tell us that you listen to the podcast, whisper the magic word, roll up one trouser leg and do the magic secret handshake. And we'll buy you a beer and have a good evening like we did last year. So do join us there. So that will be Wednesday, the 4th of October at the Shark Tooth Tavern at the Tradewinds Resort. Tradewinds Island Grand is the official name of the hotel in St. Pete's Beach. We'd love to see you there. And I'm hoping that our guest, our interviewee today will be there, Kevin Tumlinson. He's somebody who gets about. We often bump into him around the world at various events. And we spoke to Kevin because Draft2Digital is a very well-known platform. A lot of you understand what it does, but I do get Kevin to go through the 101 of Draft2Digital at the beginning for those of you who are not familiar with it. But we're speaking to Kevin at this time because they've got quite an exciting development in an area that is dominated by one big name, but like all these areas, is growing at the moment, and there'll be different ways of doing it. And we're talking about audiobooks. So at the moment, there's a couple of big fish in the sea, one big, very big fish in the sea. But Drafted Digital are partnering up, and they've got an announcement, which I'm delighted to say they came to the SPF podcast with first. We recorded this a little while ago. So let's hear from Kevin, and then we'll pick up after the interview.
At our heart, we are a publishing aggregator, which basically means that you can upload your manuscript as a Word document, and we'll do a free conversion to the popular ebook formats, and we can actually distribute that book to our catalog of book distributors worldwide, and we've got a growing list of distributors out there. We hit most of the majors. We hit Apple iBooks, we hit Kobo, we hit Barnes & Noble, and a bunch of others you may or may not have heard of. But we can put you in quite a few markets, and we're adding new distributors all the time. So it's a exciting and growing business, actually.
Yeah, and it's it is a necessary part of it for the modern self-published author. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to take care of from getting your book to market, and to have a one-stop shop for the vast majority of the various places you want your book to be for sale on is extremely useful.
Right. Yeah, we have other tools that we part of our development here. We want to make things very easy for the author. So our conversion tool I mentioned, we can convert to EPUB. We're making some improvements to that. We're going to be announcing something very soon that's very cool. We just recently made improvements to the print layout tool that we have, where you can do an automated layout for print in whatever trim size that you prefer, and you can take that file, upload it to CreateSpace, to Lightning Source, to anybody you use for POD. All these tools in the background, the universal book links, all this stuff. It's all really exciting stuff, and we're constantly tinkering under the hood to make sure that we're building something authors can use to grow and build their careers, get that author career off the ground and moving in the right trajectory.
Great. That's a great thing. It fits in well with the way that the self-publishing community works, I think, which is sort of mutual support. And just to reiterate, all the formatting stuff is completely free to use, and you don't make a penny out of that, but people could simply only use that service from you if they want to.
Right. You can use us without ever distributing through us. Put your books out, if you want to use us to generate arcs, for example, or if you want to generate a book that goes to a vendor directly, that's fine. You can, if you're exclusive, if you're in KDP Select, for example, you can use us to convert your book to both EPUB and Mobi formats, and you can upload either of those to Amazon. So you don't have to use us for distribution. That is the only way we make money, is if you distribute through us. We take a cut of royalty. But other than that, what we really want is to make sure that we're empowering authors to get out there and build their careers. We understand that sometimes there are reasons, valid reasons, why you may want to go exclusive or go direct to a vendor. And we want to make sure we support that. But we do kind of hope you distribute through us, because we like money.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there has to be a business there, and you're not going to be able to do the rest of it. And that's a bit like us as well. At the end of the day, we do need people to buy courses to keep SPF going, but there's a huge amount of what we do, including this podcast, of course, which is free to consume. Okay, well, look, let's get on to what we've got you on today to talk about, which is a new agreement you have, a new link up on the audiobooks side of things. And I'll get you to explain it first, but I think people should understand from the beginning this is significant because the market is dominated at the moment and there's not a lot of flexibility. And this potentially, I think your new link up threatens to change that.
Right. We so the big announcement is that as of July 18th, we're going to have a partnership with Findaway. They're an audiobook production company. They've created a new service called Voices, and we're partnering with them to basically make it very easy for our authors to port their content over and begin the production process with Findaway Voices. And where this is big, okay, so right now the dominant company that you mentioned is Audible's ACX or Audible's Audible, Amazon's Audible was what I meant to say. ACX is the program that a lot of authors are familiar with for getting their books basically produced as audiobooks. And right now, those guys completely dominate this marketplace, which has its ups and downs, mostly downs though, from the perspective of the author. Audible controls all pricing, it controls all distribution. So, and they demand some exclusivity if you go with certain aspects of the program. So, what we've been trying to do is build something that can essentially redefine that audiobook industry and make terms more favorable for the indie author. That's what we've been working towards. This partnership is going to go a long way towards empowering authors.
Yeah, I mean that is significant, and I think we've chatted before about this area, but the dominance of Audible and the ACX platform, I suppose, is almost accidental. It's kind of grown up there. It's been the one-stop shop, a bit like you are trying to be in a different field. But that's no reason why it should be like that forever.
In a lot of ways, just like with ebooks, we have Amazon to thank for opening up the audiobook market, and it's been great on a lot of levels because the ACX program, like things like the royalty split, that opened things up so that authors could actually produce their books with very little or no overhead. The problem is that doesn't work out so great for the narrators a lot of the time. So a lot of narrators are starting to kind of shy away from doing those deals. Those who are still doing it sometimes aren't, very skilled at the work. So the pool of talent has been sort of trimmed down. So one of the things that we've been looking at, we want to change that. And there's another aspect to Audible that we're looking to change, and it's kind of the sacred cow of Audible, but we're trying to break the credit model that they use. So basically, the credit model is bad for everybody when you really start to look at it closely. It's bad for the readers because they tend to only get books, a couple of books at a time. Depending on the program you're paying for, as a listener, you might get 1 or 2 credits a month, maybe 3. You might potentially buy more credits here and there. But for the most part, you are only going to get you're only going to download books, the number of books that you have credits for each month. You tend to only download really lengthy books because you don't want to waste your credit on something that only lasts like an hour. So you're looking for books that are 24 hours long, 30 hours long. You're wanting something that has some meat on the bone. So there's a limitation to the readers there. There's a limitation on what they can actually get. There's a limitation on how many books they can get per month. And then for the authors themselves, the real problem for us is, this limits what we can actually put up and with this huge investment, this huge overhead of production. We don't want to waste money on something that's not going to sell. Our short format work isn't going to sell on Audible because people aren't going to invest in it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to break this credit model so that basically we're offering price controlling. So we want the author to be able to control their price, which is something Audible does not let you do at this point. They dictate the price. What we want and what we think is going to work well, we want authors to be able to control their price, even to the point of offering a book for free. With Findaway Voices, that's an option. You can price all the way down to $0. You can price at $2.99, $4.99, whatever is comfortable for you. And if you notice, those prices are vastly different from what you get if you try to buy a book direct on Audible. You're usually going to pay, $30, $25, something along those lines. So the hope here and the strategy here, we think that if authors are able to control their pricing, new readers will come along because they'll be willing to try an author out. An untried author is much more attractive if it only costs a couple of bucks to listen to that book. But we also get the advantage of being able to do short form work and sell that directly. And where I see this as big, this is exciting to me because I'm thinking in terms of like serialized short fiction. Right, which had its heyday on in ebooks for a while and is somewhat diminished. But now we've got a whole new open playing field where if you can if you do have the overhead to invest, you could produce something, hire someone to narrate for you. But short format work is a little more accessible for the average author to be able to record themselves as well. There's no cost, no overhead at all if you bring in your own audiobook files to Findaway Voices. So now we have an opportunity for authors to produce their own work, control this stuff again, no gatekeepers. And the only way Findaway makes money at that point is on distribution, just like D2D. So we can actually sort of take these short stories and novellas that we have, especially the serialized stuff, and sort of maximize our royalty potential there. Whereas before on Audible, the best we could hope for is to bundle all that stuff into one volume and really take a hit on how much profit we can make off of it. Because we have to, we don't control the pricing. So, Audible's going to price it at whatever. And short story collections and that sort of thing really don't do so hot for in Audible on audiobook sales. But now we're opening that up.
I mean, there's a few things to pick up on there. I mean, the first thing to say is that I think this system sounds much more author and reader orientated than the existing system. And again, let's pay credit to Amazon for breaking the ground and making everything possible. And it will adapt in the future, there's no doubt, if this is significant. And it sounds like it's going to be. The idea of being able to put shorts and revive shorts, I say revive, it's been almost impossible to really get shorts working in the audio book market, but that's a real possibility. And, you say they've diminished a little bit. Maybe the stats are there, but there are significant authors making good livings with shorts at the moment. So that's...
Well, that is true. Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that you can't do that. Certainly guys, I interviewed Dean Wesley Smith, and he makes a lot of money off of short fiction, including doing his bundles, Smith Monthly, that sort of thing. And actually,
I was going to say, depending on how you consume your audiobooks, they might actually suit you. If you have a commute every day that's 30 minutes, you might love the idea of listening to a short that's going to last 1 or 2 days rather than weeks.
Yeah, I know I would. I mean, I'm doing my thing. I'm writing, I'm producing podcasts, I'm doing the marketing work for Draft to Digital. I don't get as many opportunities to just chill out with some fiction as I used to. I don't have a commute, I don't have drive time anymore. So something in the 15 to 30 minute range where I could digest a short story or a novella would be kind of nice for me personally. And I think a lot of authors, I think a lot of listeners are going to be in that same boat. Short, digestible, and serialized fiction is perfect. It's a continuous. You can if you become skilled at doing your own stuff, you can keep your overhead very low, and just continuously produce these audiobooks. And Findaway will help you with this. By the way, they have guidelines. They have
technical help and advice and so on.
Technical help, right? Exactly.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't really know where to start with that sort of thing.
Right.
Obviously, you and I are seasoned professionals, but.
Exactly, right, yeah. Although I have yet to actually record an actual audiobook.
Yeah.
It's a lot more work than you think.
It's a lot more work. And also it's very different. I'm happy doing voiceover. I don't actually think I would be happy doing a book, even my book, because I think it requires a bit of acting. I think it's more
there's a performance component there.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go overboard with it. Some people are very good at doing this, and there are nuances to it that make it an enjoyable listen, but it doesn't necessarily have to be high performance. But the other side of that, by the way, we know that the biggest barrier here is the cost of production, and sometimes you can pay multiple thousands of dollars to produce an audiobook. Findaway, when they approached us about this, one of the things we brought up was this cost, mentioning that a lot of authors don't have that kind of revenue to just throw, or that sort of money to throw at a production. And we were very pleased with their response, because they're working hard to figure out ways to make this more affordable for the authors, to the point of the goal is get it down to not thousands of dollars but hundreds of dollars. What can we do to make things simpler and easier and more cost effective. Narrators need to make their living too, so nobody's trying to cut narrators out, but if there are ways, maybe incentive programs, maybe We've talked about production kits. We've talked about all kinds of ideas to make this easier for the author in terms of both time and money. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Because what it means for me, so the reason we got into this partnership in the first place is Findaway is very much like Draft to Digital in the way it approaches the author. The author isn't so much a customer as they are a partner. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is centered on, how can we help this author succeed? And Findaway they're very generous about all that. They get it. And so we were happy to partner with them.
That's great, and I can see potentially us even adding a little session maybe to our 101 course on the basic setup for voiceover. Yeah. We've got a couple of our guys. I mean, John Logston comes to mind. I've actually stood in his little voiceover. He's got a fantastic voiceover booth in his house in one of the Carolinas South, I think. Or was it North? Anyway, it's something that he does, and it makes it, and it works for him. And I think he's going to be one of the people who takes advantage of the flexibility here, which brings me on to the next significant point, and probably the point that most people would have pricked up about, is the pricing. And the first thing to say is the opportunity to do with audio books what we advise people to do with their ebooks, which is to give one away at the beginning, at least a portion of a book. And there's no reason why that system of having somebody, because this is a different audience. Some people only really listen to audiobooks, so you've got the opportunity of getting somebody hooked on your character and your story and getting them as a customer for life. Right,
and that was. So to me, this is the biggest game changer. We've been preaching this marketing method for years in the ebook circles. It's very difficult to do this sort of thing with physical books, print and hardback. But we're talking about another digital format with a different type of audience. But the marketing approach could still work, and I believe it will work. We've just never been empowered to do that before. So having the ability to price all the way down to zero, you can do first in series free, introduce a listener to your serialized fiction, for example. If they like it, they'll go on to the next one, particularly if it only costs a couple of bucks to get the next installment. Whereas right now the process is someone else controls your pricing. Someone else controls basically every aspect of that audiobook. And it's, unless they really enjoyed it, they're unlikely to keep going. They're unlikely to use that next credit. And then there's a huge gap between this month and next month. If I use my 2 credits and get 2 of your books, that cuts me out for 30 days. And I might listen to both those books over a weekend if I'm really interested in them. But now I'm losing momentum. So there are multiple opportunities here for the author to really gain some control, which is always good for the author and good for the reader too. I mean, it keeps the pricing down, means more books per month. I can purchase and listen to more per month. I can discover new authors. It's really the typical sort of win-win-win scenario that Draft Digital always likes.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I alluded to earlier, fits into a kind of culture, I think, of the self-publishing industry. The things help each other.
Right.
Yeah, you're not a fan of the credit system. I think I can see you.
I'm not.
You've thought this through, and you can't see any redeeming features.
Well, I can see some redeeming features. I use Audible credits, and it was. What it did was make audiobooks affordable for everybody for a long time. It's just that, time has moved on, things have evolved. It was not a bad system. It was a great system, because otherwise, at the time that they introduced it, you were having to buy CDs of books. You might pay $60 for a book, whereas I pay $22 a month, and I can get 2 audiobooks per month. That was fantastic for its time. And sometimes you can stack those, you can have multiple credits kind of pile up. You get special deals, that's great. But we're in a different era now. I mean, we're at an era where media is consumed much more quickly, where, people want things sort of on demand. You have services like Playster that have popped up that offers a sort of Netflix model for everything, but also audiobooks. So, there are multiple opportunities for the author in all this, now that things are changing, we see that opportunity as, we need to get in there and push those buttons, break that credit model so that both readers and authors benefit. And I should point out, by the way, Findaway distributes to Audible and iTunes, as well as
I was going to ask that. Okay. So actually
Yeah.
from a consumer point of view, because one of the problems sometimes when new services come along is the lack of integration and the fragmentation of using it, which can be ultimately can stop something being successful. But Findaway is not. It's not a unique little app that you have to download and only listen to stuff through that.
What's very cool is Findaway has 170 plus markets, more distributors than I can really even keep in my head. And the whole point here is to get your book as far and wide. And it's the wide distribution model, just like ebooks, just like Draft Digital preaches for ebooks. But, of course, Audible is included in that, and so is iTunes, because those are the major markets where people get their audiobooks. So you don't miss out on that. We also, you're going to be able to get the free promo codes, just like you do if you go direct to Audible. All that is included and rolled in, and there's no exclusivity at all. If you use ACX to produce your book, particularly if you use the royalty splitting model that they have, you are essentially locked in for 7 years. Basically, you can't distribute your book anywhere but Audible for 7 years. And not to mention, if you do the royalty split, you're now locked into sharing that royalty for the lifetime of that audiobook. So that narrator will always own a chunk of that book. That's one of the reasons why Findaway opted not to go with a royalty splitting model, and instead working on sort of lowering the overhead of initial production, because yes, it's expensive to produce an audiobook, which is exactly why you should own as much of the royalty as you can on the back end, so that you're not splitting this up with someone for the lifetime of that book. Findaway pays 80% of their royalty. So, and it's based on, for everyone but Audible, it's based on the price you set for the book. So no matter where they're distributing it, short of Audible, Audible always makes things a little difficult,
Sure.
But wherever they're distributing it, whatever they make, if they get 25%, if they get 45%, whatever the cut happens to be, and I have a whole blog post that breaks this out, but you get 80% of that royalty. So in reality, once you start figuring things out, you're probably going to get around between 25 and 45% yourself. That typically beats Audible, their royalty split, or the rate you get on royalty split in particular. So you tend to make more back per sale. And since you're able to control your pricing, you can leverage that to attract more listeners on more platforms worldwide. And there's a real potential you can make back your overhead very quickly, which is great.
Yeah. And so if you got two types of people, I guess, people who know how they're going to get their book recorded, whether they're doing it themselves,
Right.
or they've got a system and somebody they're paying or whatever. People who don't know where to start on that, maybe they've never done this
Right.
before, and they've got platforms, obviously, ACX, etc., available to them.
Right.
But is that something they've got to then work out? Can they go straight to Findaway and, in addition to a guide, Findaway giving them a route to getting it recorded?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the process here, and I'm gonna cover this from the draft to digital perspective, but the process through us would be, especially if you're already a draft to digital author, but whether you are or not, you can upload your ebooks to draft to digital, set up your account, get all your information straight, and use our free conversion tools, whatever you want. Even if you're not distributing through us, you do not have to distribute through us to use this service. That's something that's come up, so I want to make it clear. You do not have to use Draft to Digital as a distributor. But what we do is there's going to be an easy button, which one of the things we love to do. As soon as you've done your conversion, you'll be offered a couple of different format options. You can choose to do a print layout, which is also free, and you can also choose to start your production. And what we'll do is port over all your information, everything about the book, everything about you, will essentially automatically set up an account with Findaway Voices, and then the whole process of finding a narrator for your book and getting things into production starts. And the way they're doing it, so they'll qualify you, okay, and your book. They want to know more about what type of book it is, the genre, the tone. They'll ask you a lot of qualifying questions. And then they'll also talk to you about budget. You can determine, what's your range. And then they'll take all this and they have a pool of narrators, and they'll put this out there and get some auditions for you so that you can listen in to a clip of your own book being read and determine, who you like, who you don't, whatever. There's a series of tools on their site. There's a calculator, which is pretty cool, that lets you figure out, based on, they have a formula. It's like 9,000 words per finished hour. And per finished hour is something you're going to hear a lot in audiobook production. But the idea is it's that final hour. It's if the book is 3 hours long when it's completed, that's 3 finished hours, right? So they have a calculator that will let you determine how much it's going to cost based on the rates you get from your narrator, and how many units you have to sell at what price in order to make back your overhead. So you'll be able to calculate that based on the royalties. So all this stuff is all tools geared towards making this easier and more comfortable for the author, which is sort of our primary mission. I just every time a new aspect of this comes up, by the way, I get stupid excited about it because this is one of those missing pieces. Like I have 3 audiobooks available, right? But I have 40 books. And I would love to produce all of them, but it's a nightmare. I hate going through as great as ACX has been. For me, it's a huge hassle to deal with it. It's a clunky system. It's not geared toward me. It's not really geared toward someone who doesn't have the time to babysit the whole project.
And there's no doubt it has put off authors in droves in the past, and some have started the project and maybe got 1 or 2 done, as you say, and some have not really got even that far. And when you think, how many self-published authors are there? Who knows a definitive answer to that question? But hundreds of thousands. A growing percentage of that suddenly finding this system accessible and enabling. This could be a waterfall moment, watershed moment.
Watershed, yeah.
Watershed moment. But I was thinking of a waterfall of gushing amounts of.
Could
of
be that too.
This is.
It's so much bigger than I am able to convey, honestly, because one of the biggest benefits to being an indie author is this complete lack of gatekeepers. We have full control. I can if I'm so inclined and so talented, I can not only write in my book, I can edit it, I can do the layout, I can do the conversions, I can do the cover, I can do the marketing, I can control literally every aspect of it if I'm inclined to do so. When it came to audiobooks, we had a gatekeeper again. And there was always some form of barrier. If you wanted the affordable overhead, something that a lot of authors really need. I mean, unless you're already selling big, it's an expensive process to get your book produced as audio. Now we're taking down that barrier and we're opening it up. Price controlling allows the author to have all sorts of extended options they didn't have at their disposal before. Working with a narrator, you don't have to use Findaway to find your narrator either. You can come in with your own audio files. If you are not exclusive to Audible, you can take your Audible audio file and use it, as long as there's no exclusivity deal there. So you've got so many more options now. The cost of production is still going to be a barrier to some authors, but we're working on that too, and we think that's going to be reduced soon. So
there's going to be a side industry that comes up. If there's enough demand for it, the industry will find itself. And people, I just mentioned John Logsdon, someone like him could even start making his booth pay for itself by doing other people's VO and stuff as well. I keep mentioning John. I'm giving him lots of work to do now.
He's getting some love.
Yeah, he's getting some love. He's also got to get on with it. Look, the time's flying by. Let's get on to. I mean, what's the timetable on this, Kevin? Is this implemented now? Is it available now? Is it going to be launched soon?
The official launch is July 18th. which as of this, I don't know when this will go live, but I mean, as of
After
this
that,
recording, I think
because it's the 13th
okay.
as we record this, yeah.
Okay, so yes, it's already available to you, future listener. But and you don't necessarily have to go through Draft to Digital and do the conversions and everything if you want to get into it. If you want and you still want to be kind to D2D, I do appreciate it. You can go to findawayvoices.com/D2D, D the numeral 2D. And that will credit us for having sent you there. So, the point here is it's not even necessary to be a Draft to Digital author to do this. It's the partnership is we want to make it easier for the authors. So if you come in through us, we can do all the account creation, transfer over. I think we're even transferring over like tax information, everything that's necessary for you to have your account set up to just make it a one-click kind of process. So yeah, at this point, it should be, as of now, as of listening to this, it's available. If you, of course, have any questions, we're all about customer support. We're all about author support, I should say. You can pop in and ask us on Twitter, email us or whatever, and we'll answer any questions you have. Happy to do that, of course.
Yeah, just give us the URL for D2D.
Draft to Digital is drafttodigital.com. I think we got the near miss on everything, so even if you write it out, you should still get to us. You can pop in there, hit that support button, and ask us some questions if you like. That's fine by us. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Draft to Digital. Follow me if you want at Kevin Tumlinson. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Superb, Kevin. Well, we'll keep an eye on the social media in our groups and your groups and see how the early adopters get on with it, and they can feed back into our group and tell us.
Man,
hopefully.
I'm excited. Yeah, I think especially your group. I mean, the authors who come to you guys for to sort of learn the ins and outs of this business, I really think they're going to appreciate this sort of new tool in their belt. This new ability they're going to have. Audiobooks are a great additional revenue stream. We've never had this kind of control over it before. I'm so excited to see what the creative minds in your group are going to do with it. I know they're going to think of things that I didn't think of. And when you do, please tell me, because I'll talk about it. I'll let other authors know. So yeah, very exciting.
Absolutely. We'll do that. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime, man.
Kevin Tumlinson. So first of all, Mark, how do audiobooks go for you? Is it an important part of your business?
It is actually. I got royalties from Audible. They pay quarterly, and I got royalties last week. And I make decent high five figures a year from audiobook royalties.
As in high five?
High five, yeah. So it's pretty good. So I've done some books with ACX when I got started, which is a pretty good platform to use. And then because I got a bit too busy, I decided I'd just sell them all to Audible and they could produce it. And then also because I'm fiendish, I figured that if they paid me a bit of money to buy the rights, they'd also have skin in the game, so they'd then promote it. And of course, Audible is also the store, so that has worked out quite well. So most of my Milton books usually have bestseller tags at Audible. So yeah, it's a big and increasing source of revenue for me.
And at the beginning, did you know how to start, where to go with it? In fact, I don't think you did, because I think at the very beginning you asked me to voice one of your books, which meant you really you didn't know where to start.
I had no idea, did I? No, no, that's very true. I did ask you to do that. And in the early days, I went to ACX because I'd seen the Blatch performance and wasn't impressed, and decided to go to a pro. And to be honest, that probably wasn't the best. It wasn't the best job I had for that particular book. But then I found someone else who did my Beatrix Rose books, did really, really good job on those. And subsequent to that, I went to Audible, and they've ever since we've had the same narrator for the Milton books, a guy called David Thorpe, who is a really talented artist, can do all the accents. And I almost, when I'm writing the books now, I'm kind of thinking, which accent should I try and get David to do next? And I haven't managed to trip him up yet. So he does that, and then they take care of the production, they take care of the quality control, and the promotion as well. So that's worked quite well for me. It's not something that everyone can do. I was selling strongly when I went to Audible, so it wasn't a punt for them really. So what Drafted Digital have done, and what's possible with ACX, is to make it much easier for all writers to get their books up in audio. And I would recommend that people look into that, because it's one of the fastest growing areas of the book industry now. We've all got our phones, and we can download books, and listen to them within 30 seconds. So it's really excellent platform to get on.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I love Drafted Digital. I love the energy of the place, and Kevin exemplifies that. And
the beards.
And the beard. There are a lot of beards in Drafted Digital. There's a lot of beards in SPF.
Well, there's one. Actually, yeah, John.
Well,
yeah, John's just not shaven. He's just unclean.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got a beard. I'm growing the beard.
I think I said to you, I picked you up from the railway station and said, Mark's crossed the line from unshaven to a beard. Actually,
yeah, it's intentional now.
Yeah. Goatee. That's because everybody in GQ magazine now has a beard. So Mark's.
Well, it's only after I had one. It's
I see.
I'm setting trends as usual.
Okay, good. I just want to mention before we go, we have a range of books available to try and help you with your writing, with your selling and marketing. And one of them in particular we're going to mention because it's gone incredibly well. And I look at the download stats. One book does stand out, and that is the 5 Editing Maxims. And it's not difficult to see why when you read the book. It's a really insightful look. We had a fabulous interview, I think, with Jenny Parrott a few weeks ago on the podcast, which went down extremely well as well. And I think this is because it goes right to the heart of what we do in terms of writing, listening to somebody talk about the nitty gritty and cutting through all the question marks we have in our head about what you should be doing and how you should be developing a story. And that book is great for that. And it's gone down really well. So it's called 5 Editing Maxims. It's got a subtitle as well, which I can't remember now.
Me neither.
How to write a page turn.
How to write a page turn. Well done, John Dyer. And if you want to download that, you can go to selfpublishingformula.com/maxims, MAXIMS. And if you haven't done so already, I'd thoroughly recommend that.
I hate doing this, but I've got to correct John. He very rarely says anything, but he's actually got it wrong. It's Mark Dawson's self-publishing formula. That's me, by the way. Writing a page turner, 5 editing maxims to make your book irresistible.
Okay. Yeah, well, that was pretty close. I mean,
it was close.
For JD, that was quite close.
Close only counts. Only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Oh, there we go. Is that a like a management speak? We're cooking on gas.
Probably.
Second place is first loser.
I feel dirty now. I mean,
yeah,
horrible.
Well, thank you very much on that dirty note for listening to the podcast this week and watching us on YouTube. You can find us in all the usual places. It'd be lovely if you left us a review either on YouTube or a comment on YouTube or a review on iTunes. We always love to hear that. And of course, you can become a VIP listener of the podcast at patreon.com/SPF podcast. Until next week, have a good week writing and a good week selling. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingformula.com for more information, show notes, and links on today's topics. You can also sign up for our free video series on using Facebook ads to grow your mailing list. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.